Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. So as we come up on the tax deadline, I wanted to be able to break down for you how I view extensions and bust a few myths, I guess, and kind of tackle some common misconceptions that people have around extensions and around taxes. And hopefully give you some clarity into what that means for you and that you understand exactly what it means when I say you file an extension. So let me break down 3 common myths. Well, number 1 is that somehow if you file an extension, it means that you can't file before the original deadline, that like you have to wait until April 15th or later in order to file. And that's just not true. You can file a precautionary extension just in case, and then just file on time if you make it in time. There's really no downside. I actually, if I could, I would just extend everybody from day one and then just not really have to stress out too much or increase our heart rates over the final extension or, excuse me, the final deadline. The extension gives you 6 extra months to do the filing, which is great. And then it really just kind of lowers everyone's stress level because if I can get the business return extended from March 15th to September 15th, it means that I can get the business return done in late March, early April if I need to, get the personal return done in mid-April just on time, and everyone's happy. Everything's fine. And I think that people often assume that by filing an extension that they have to wait or that they should wait. And I say, no, it just means that we have the permission to file a few days late if we need to. So filing a precautionary extension has no real downside, in my opinion. Number 2 is that somehow if you file an extension, that it heightens your audit risk. I've heard this one before that like, oh, I'm definitely going to get audited if I extend. Is that going to increase my likelihood of audit? And personally, I have never seen any evidence that would suggest that that would be true. Now, there might be other folks that might disagree with me, but I've never seen or understood any correlation between you extending your return and somehow the likelihood of getting audited. The content of your return is more likely to get you audited than when you actually filed it. There are plenty of legitimate reasons for extensions, and everyone is entitled to take their extensions. So I don't know how they could potentially target riskier returns and use whether you extend it as an indicator of anything. I don't find it to be very telling from an auditor's perspective if they're going to find any unclaimed income. If anything, you filing an extension expresses that you need more time to compile accurate data and that you're not just going to file the fastest numbers you can get your hands on. So, quite conversely, I would look at an extension as, hey, they took more time and care into their return potentially versus those that file in early February and, just file it right away. I might be inclined to say, hey, maybe they rushed through it. You never know. You absolutely never know. So I don't think that filing an extension is necessarily indicative of anything that would suggest to an auditor to look at it. I really don't. The third thing, and this is the one that everyone gets tripped up on, like everybody, is that extensions extend the paperwork, not the payment. Meaning, if you get an extension on your tax return, it means that you have an extra 6 months to file, but that does not mean you have an extra 6 months to pay. So if you owe $10,000, for example, on April 15th, based on your income tax return, you have to pay then. That is your payment deadline. Otherwise, you incur interest and penalties. Now, you can file an extension, but the extension just means that you have 6 extra months to file the paperwork. That clock starts ticking on April 15th that you owe money. So you don't want to wait until October to finally wake up, file your return, and realize how much you owe and then pay because you've incurred 6 months of penalties and interest. And if you have a really large balance, that can add up. So, my best advice is to essentially not treat the extension like a real extension. I would honestly only utilize an extension if I needed a few extra days, not a few extra months to compile my taxes. Ideally, if you have really good bookkeeping for your business and you can, throw your tax documents together, you should be able to, within reason, you should be able to file everything by April 15th without a problem. But if you need a few extra days, a few extra weeks to get things done, that's totally fine. I personally don't think any taxpayer should wait until after maybe the end of May to file their taxes. I think that that year becomes out of sight, out of mind. We got to look in the windshield, not the rear view mirror. I think we need to be more focused on the future than the past at that point. So I would say target to get your return done as quickly as possible. But if you need a few extra days or so to complete it, an extension is not going to harm you whatsoever. And the minimal amount of interest and penalties you incur will be not so bad compared to 6 months worth. So definitely target to get that return done faster so that you can get that amount and know how much you're going to owe. And then another thing, another myth I've actually heard. So we're adding a fourth one in the mix. Another myth I've heard is, or really a common request is, hey, Shannon, my return got extended. Can I do another extension? Like you can't just keep kicking the can down the road for 6 months at a time, unfortunately. You get one extension, it's 6 months, and then um, beyond that, it's just straight up late. Like it's just going to keep incurring interest and penalties. And, there's nothing we can do about it, really. I guess there is something you can do about it. You can definitely do resolution work to try to get your penalties abated or your balances reduced, but that's a whole nother episode, right? That's a whole nother episode. That's actually a great time to reference Jessica Smith's episode we did on what to do if you can't pay your bill or what to do if you owe a large balance. So we did cover that on a prior episode. But if you are thinking, I just need more time, I need more time, I really want you to ask yourself, is it just that this will never be a priority? Because let's be real, it doesn't take that long to get done if you just want to dedicate like a weekend afternoon to getting it done. I think that we just have so many excuses of other things that we would rather do and could potentially be more pressing that we kick the can down the road, we ignore this responsibility, and then we just don't do it, or we just make it more difficult for ourselves by waiting. And I would just say, don't wait, get it done, rip the band aid off, jump in the cold plunge pool, do what you got to do, right? Like get uncomfortable, go in, get it done, and you'll feel so much better when it's over. I promise you. I absolutely promise you. Now, remember, when you file an extension, it is just for the paperwork, not the payment. And if you're wondering, hey, Shan, wait a minute. If I owe my money on April 15th anyway, well, how will I know how much I owe? Well, isn't that funny? Because you have to file or you have to at least compile your tax return enough to know how much you're going to owe. So in reality, they're kind of saying no excuses. You really should know and you should have your stuff basically done by April 15th. Otherwise, we're going to start charging you interest and penalties. So don't forget that you need to either pay what you owe, you need to file your extensions, or you file your tax return by April 18th is your deadline to file and to pay or to file your extensions. And if your CPA, your accountant, your tax pro has not already filed an extension for you, or you're not even sure if they filed an extension for you, please, please ask them. Make sure you're asking them, did you file an extension? And most accountants, I will say most accountants probably don't charge for the extension, or they'll charge a really small fee to do the extension for you. Personally, in my practice, we file the extension for free because we're filing it mostly as an administrative step for ourselves. Like we're filing extensions just so that we don't have to worry about it when the deadline hits and people aren't done. We're not filing last minute extensions. We are just filing extensions for pretty much everyone who isn't done by March 1st for business and April 1st for individuals. We'll file extensions for them just so that there's no down to the wire rush. So that is just what we do. We recommend that other accountants do that just to lower the stress level. But if you're wondering if this is what your accountant is doing with you, ask them. Make sure you're just communicating with them. That's the most important part. You should be communicating with your accountant and letting them know if you have the intention to extend. And let them know, by the way, that you plan to extend and when you think you might be ready, because there is the extension for a couple of days and then there's the extension for a couple of months. Let them know when they're going to be picking up your return again or when they should be expecting to hear from you so they can plan around their work schedules and workloads. Personally, I don't really like doing taxes in the summer. It's just not fun. And most accountants don't. So just keep that in mind that if you're going to be doing off season work or having them do off season work, make sure you're working around their schedule and make sure that you understand what the expectations are. If you're an entrepreneur who's just starting out, it can be overwhelming to think about all the responsibilities you have when it comes to financial management and taxes. Even if you've been binging this podcast, implementing all of it can be really stressful if you don't have a clear list of action steps and know exactly what you should be doing right now. Luckily, we organized all of this for you in the Business Financial Quick Starter. This is your one-stop shop for beginning steps of entrepreneurship so you can build your business confidently from day one. This is not me teaching accounting, no way. It's a specific set of essential action steps to save you a lot of time, money, and headaches as you embark on your own entrepreneurship journey. We cover everything from setting up your business bank account all the way through avoiding a surprise tax bill. Now, as a podcast listener, you get 10% off with code KEEPWHATYOUEARN, all one word. So dive in now and access your Business Financial Quick Starter. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.